We didn't do a price section on this, did you? You didn't say this is 1 to 2.
No, it's all price range.
So this is all price range. So where the devil gets in the details, in our market, you all know, is if I cut this off at, let's say, 300,000 and above, right? And then I went under 300, or maybe even under 200, you would argue with me about what that line should be. The supply and demand inventory situation would be considerably different, wouldn't it? Right? Because all of you have that $1 million listing that's taken forever to sell. Okay, not everybody, some of you do. So my point is, when you get above 500,000 in this market, your number of buyers gets pretty small, doesn't it? So sometimes, you know, Mark Twain says there's liars, and there's dang liars, and then there's statistics, right? So when you're analyzing this data, you really got to get into your numbers. So you can't just sit here and talk to your buyers and say, or your sellers, it's a hot market. It really depends. The one thing that I'm seeing, and maybe all you can disagree or agree, is market's still raising hot if you price it right. If you try, how many of you are seeing sellers that's saying, I heard it's a hot market, the media says it's a hot market, let's try to get as much money as we can. How many people see that? Okay? And your answer is?
It's hot if it's priced right.
Yeah. How bad do you want to sell the home? Do you want to get the most money? Because if we price this price, Brett, what happens if I price that house and I try to get more? What's it going to do?
Sit there.
And the longer it sits there, what do I have to do?
Reduce the price more often.
And then it's been on the market a long time, so what do people think? Buyers think?
Problem.
Something's wrong with it. And then we end up getting less money than we would if we'd have priced it right out of the gate. So folks, you've got to stay in control during that conversation with listing presentations. As much as you want that listing, as bad as we need the inventory, you've got to set realistic expectations with people. Say, hey, my name is, in this case, Travis. I'm your friend. I want to help you make the most money. Here's what you can do. You choose. What do you want, the most net money, or do you want the longest term? Price, we are seeing, again, it is coming up. If you look over the last 2 years, for sales went up almost 25%, but sold's only up 8%. So what are we seeing again? We're seeing a lot of that is people trying to take the market higher, putting it up and asking more. But what's keeping it from actually selling for that full price all the time? Appraisals. And consumers, right? People aren't going to spend more money than what they think it's worth. Are you seeing buyers get more selective and go, hey, if I don't get this, I'll go to the next one? You're all doing this, so I assume that's yes. So, just a couple of quick things about the market, and make sure you understand that in the next several months, this is the best time to get the most listings. Because what you're going to get is a lot of people thinking, I just need to wait till next spring. Guess what happens? Do sales happen in October? Mm-hmm. Do they happen in November? Do they happen in December?
Yes.
Every month. Every month. So what you have to do is continually keep your foot, because with the low inventory situation, if they have a good property and it's priced right, it's going to sell. They don't need to wait. In fact, they'll be better to sell it now than if rates go up 0.25%. The economy continues to go better and rates go up and wage inflation doesn't happen, their price could actually go down because the monthly payment will go up. Does that make sense? So don't make them wait on that. So let's celebrate some awards. How about that? We're going to start out with individuals. Okay? First section is closed. Nope, listings. Yes. No, you're wrong, Travis. Okay. Top 3 individual agents and listings. Third place. We had a 3-way tie. Dusty, Melissa, and Rhett. 7 listings. Thank you. Second place. Oh, I went too fast there, but yeah. Gina with 8. Number 1 individual agent was, whoa. Sorry. Too much coffee, I guess. Number 1 was Will with 10 units. Next slide is, what's that? Close units. I knew that's what it was. Third place, Robert McCain with 8 units. Second place, Red Smiley with 9 units. In first place, who's this guy? Tyler. don't you? Look at her. All right. Closed unit volume. Did I get that right? Look at me. Wow. Third place. Smiley, 1.5 million. Not bad enough. Second place. Robert McCann, 1.9 million. And the person will be buying lunch for everybody tomorrow. Tyler Richardson. All right, now we go to teams.
Look what hiring assistant does for you.
I know, it's crazy. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. Okay. Teams. Listings taken, third place in the team division. Try not to bucket too hard. Here we go. Adam Johnson team, 6 units taken. Second place. The Eck group, Jeremy Eck, 10 units taken. And first place. Oh, FHS, 11 units. That's pretty good. Nice job. Okay. Closed units, third place team. Looks like we either have a tie.
Yep. FHS and the
Zukus.
Zukus.
Zukus, all right. 6 units, nice job. Second place.
Tie.
A tie again, Jason and Al, and and first place. Gateway, Joy Red. Third place in closed volume. Adam Johnson team, 1.4 million. You notice we have some individuals out producing some team. That's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. Jason and L, 1.5. And first place, Joy Bray, 1.9 million. We got lunch on Friday for everybody. And for the team, the group division, listings taken third in units is Jason Massengale, 16 listings taken. The Grady group, 25. There we go. And first place went to Dan Holt's team, 40 units. All right. Closed units, third place, the Massengale group, 19 units. Second place, the Grady group, 45 units. And in September, the winner of the closed units, Dan Holton, 46 units. Got him by one. Who's going to win the volume? Good question. Third place, Massengale, 2.6 million. Second place, Dan Holt, 6.3. And first place is the Grady group, 8.7. Not bad much. Not a bad much. 8.7 million. All right. Congratulations on your first closings. Angela, Frederick, Brittany, and Jonathan. Nice job. Listings, Amanda, Anna, Brock, Carol, and Zach. Great job. Our cappers in August, we had a lot of cappers, didn't we? That's pretty awesome. Look at that fine group. Any of these people here today? Josh is here. It's high behind Tyler. Stand up, beautiful man. Keep that light aside. You'll let it shine. Okay? Vested, Elise, Kelsey, Heather, and Denise. Congratulations. All right. Top trainer of the month, Michelle Daniel. You see her? Tell her congratulations. And we're going to have lunch here shortly with Family Safe. I'm going to start now telling you a little bit about my time. I got an email last Monday from Keller Williams International. They said, hey, we'd like to have you come down. We'll take care of the expenses, and we just want you to come down. And Gary and Josh are going to spend the day talking with a few people. I'm like, all right, I have no idea how I got this invite. I was the only one from our region, and so we spent around, I want to say, from 10 to 4 going through a lot of stuff. So I have 4 pages of notes. I was with them about 6 hours. I can't quite cover everything, so I'm going to try to fly through as much stuff as I can, and then I'm going to open up for questions, okay? So in 20 minutes here, I'm going to try to cover 4 hours of material, so buckle up. Are you ready? So, Gary spent the first 2 hours really going through, a lot of you have probably seen his hockey stick where he talks about the stages of evolution of a business and where we're at in the stages. He talks about stage 1, 2, 3, 4, where businesses really jump off. So if you've ever studied the cycles of business, whether it be the cell phone industry or computers, personal computers, everybody's getting into the market, and then the market just gets really saturated. It's standard business stuff, and what he talked about really was how real estate has changed. And when he talked about the evolution, maybe some of you have heard of the story of IBM and Microsoft. Have you guys heard that story? And so basically IBM thought all the money in computers was going to be in the hardware. And so they had a little contest on developing the software, and Bill Gates, a guy named Bill Gates, you probably heard of him, and Paul Allen had a little contest. They won, and they had a little company called Microsoft, and they developed the software. And IBM's like, great, you can have that, we're going to sell hardware. How'd that work out? Pretty good for them, right? So, but here's the thing about hardware and software. Okay, that was really the first stage. You had hardware, right? Those were computers. And then you had software. You can really read my handwriting well. And then we had this third thing called the cloud, right? Because up until then, that's a you, by the way. Up until then, what you had with computers is when your computer maxed out, what'd you do? If it ran out of space, you bought a new one, or you upgrade the hard drive, you bought a memory sticks became big. I don't even remember, I was in college, I'm dating myself here, but they had these big, they don't have them anymore, these big, thick, went from the floppy disk, before we went to the thumb drive, they had these big zip drive, that's what it was. So it was all about room. We needed more room because we were creating so much data. And then all of a sudden, Amazon actually stumbled onto the cloud business. And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't like they said, hey, we're going to go create this cloud business. They just created it because their market for their books and all the things they were selling, they kept continuing to run out of storage areas, so that they created the clouds. And then they said, we're going to sell this to people. And did you know that that is actually almost 70% of Amazon's profit is the cloud business? It's a massive business. So now we've got the cloud, and guess what that did? That kind of made hardware and software really, especially hardware, less of an issue, right? Because you could have we all have little computers in our hands now called smartphones. So here's the thing. The cloud plus the internet, but all of these now are commodities, right? They're commodities. For a long time, there was one search platform, Internet Explorer. Now, how many different searches? There's Google, there's Firefox, there's all different kinds. So that market's not really lotted in right now. Let me ask you a question. When the internet popped up, did it put real estate agents out of business? No, you're all here, right? Why didn't it? Why didn't it just put you out of business?
You still need a professional.
Still need people, right? So there are a lot of arguments out there that that the internet is going to put the agent out of the business. So you've seen Gary talk about it. He talks about there was a time when the real estate agent was the only way people did transactions. So he actually dated himself. He said, I remember my dad was a real estate agent, and we went to look at actually before he became an agent, they went to buy a house, I think it was in Austin when they moved there, and he said, how we actually looked at homes was we went to the agent's, and to that agent's office, went through the file cabinet. They had certain listings, and you had to go with that agent to see that listing. And he said, I remember walking across the road and connecting with the next agent and looking at the next house. That was prior to the MLS. Okay? Now the MLS kind of changed things for us, didn't it? So, the days of just having an agent are done. Now there's also people out there that believe that tech is going to just take over everything. And tech is just going to be the way that people transact homes. Why? Because the guy that invented Zillow invented what other internet site? Anybody know? Besides Trulia. He invented, yes. He invented another company, another area. Anybody ever heard of Expedia?
Yeah.
He created that to put travel agents out. Put them out of business. So he said, let's do the same thing with real estate. There's so much money there. Here's the issue with that. How complex are homes? I mean, you guys know, you deal with this every day. Every home's complex. And also, home's a pretty emotional thing. Now, we don't need to think that tech won't have a role in this, but to say that tech's going to be everything is really just not true. So what that leaves us with is agent-enabled tech, so agent plus tech, or tech-enabled agent. And so let me walk you through who is a tech-enabled agent.
We are.
Other ways.
Okay? How about an agent enabled by tech?
Indoors.
So we've got a lot of them, right? Zillow, Open Door, Compass, Purple Brick, Redfin, all of these. Okay? And here's what they want. They really truly want. They want to take your commission down as small as they possibly can and pay you a full small fee. So Redfin's in a couple areas. Somebody called them the darling of Wall Street in the meeting with Gary and said that, well, actually, you know how many agents they have nationwide? 2,500. We have 180 plus thousand. So they're a drop in the bucket. But what they do have is they do have some pretty cool listing presentations. But their big spin is they're basically a discount brokerage. And their view of it is we'll hire an agent, we'll pay them $30,000 in a salary, but they've got to work, they've got to produce more revenue, but they're really trying to minimize what the agent does and maximize what the company does. So what he basically said is we're at war right now, all right? Because what you have right now is you've got the digital space, digital, and then you've got physical. And how many of you know folks that have operated a digital business? Anybody? Yeah? You know one?
Yeah.
Who?
Dropship ebooks.
Yep, there's one. How many of you have shopped online? That's a digital business. Okay? What was when Amazon came out, what did everybody say is going to happen? To physical stores. What's that? Yeah, they're going to put a lot of stores out of business. Well, here's the thing. How many of you, we hear that because of stories like Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster got put out of business by Netflix, right? But here's the story nobody knows, not a lot of people know, is Blockbuster had a plan to put Netflix out of business. Because they were the incumbent. They had the size, they had the physical presence. Their CEO had a plan to put Netflix out of business. But Carl Icahn was one of their investors, who's he's a hostage takeover kind of guy, said, no, I want my money now. We're not doing that. We're not making that investment. The rest is history. So Blockbuster didn't ignore Netflix. They didn't stick their hand in the sand. They knew what was coming. But guess what? They did not invest in the digital. They ignored it. Barnes & Noble, same thing. They had a plan. But guess what they did? They didn't want to invest in the digital space. They wanted to ignore it. So the digital world is over here trying to figure out how to beat the physical world. The physical world is trying to figure, and both of these are asking themselves this question: what's the least I can do? What's the least I can do to kick your butt? So can I build a little company in my garage and have no investment and kick your butt? But here's the thing. What do we know? What did Amazon announce here in the last couple of years? What are they doing? They're putting in stores. Everybody knows about Whole Foods, right? So when Amazon announced they were going to go putting in physical locations and possibly grocery stores, they did that before they made the Whole Foods announcement. You know what Whole Foods stock did when Amazon made that announcement? Went down. Because Amazon said, we're going into your space. So Whole Foods stock went down. Guess who bought them? Amazon. Guess what Amazon stock did? That purchase actually cost them nothing by playing that way. And now they have a physical space, right? So guess what they want? They're putting in stores everywhere to watch you. So now they're putting in what's it called, Amazon Marketplace, where they're going to have little like convenience stores where you walk in, you don't pay. Apparently getting a wallet out is a hard deal for people. But my point is, guess what? They're trying to figure out a way to beat you as much as they can. So, in the end, these companies didn't lose. They didn't get their butts kicked because they didn't have any plans. They had plans, they just chose to ignore them. So what a lot of companies in the marketplace are doing was trying to ignore the digital side. So when Gary came out in February, who's been working on this for over 2.5 years prior to this, and said, hey, guess what? We're a tech company that happens to sell real estate. Guess why he did that? Why do you think he did that? Do you think he did that for you? No. He did that to attract people. If you're in the tech industry, do you want to work for a real estate company, or you want to work for a tech company? Tech company, right? So they went from 40 developers 2.5 years ago to over 300 developers. Over 300 developers now. And they're winning awards, and they're creating, and he showed us a lot of the stuff they were creating just like this, just like that. They have an app right now they created and won an award with at the National Association of Realtors that could walk up to a home, and the software would recognize what room they were in based on probability. And it would say, okay, it looks like you're in the living room based on 83%. It would take notes on what was there, and they would walk through and be ready to list that home like that, right? That's how fast and how good some of their technology is. So, my point is, everybody laughed at them in February. But guess what has happened in the last 6 months? What did RE/MAX do? They announced they just purchased a technology company in Denver, startup. Everybody's out there purchasing them now because they're all realizing, oh, this is a real deal. So guess what we have? This is what should make you feel really good. We have the physical presence, and Gary has been investing in the digital space. I asked him a question. I said, so Gary, why did you make the pivot 3 years ago when your company's doing this? You're gaining market share. You know you're on a trajectory to be number one in all 3 categories. What made you change? Why didn't you just stick your head in the sand or sell it? And he said, that's a great question. I knew that he said, I'm a ferocious reader, and everything I read was pointing and telling me this is where it was going. And so what he noticed is, he said, we have to adapt and change. So the CEO at the time, with Keller Williams, didn't want to do that. He wanted to do what every other real estate company out there is doing right now, and that's buy bolt-on technology. Here's the problem with bolt-on technology. Bolt-on technology, I was at Caterpillar, it doesn't work. When you try to get it all to connect and talk, it doesn't work. Because every one of those companies, what do they care about? Selling you more technology. So Gary said they got stuck because they had all these long-term service agreements that required a long length of period of time. And so they've been getting out of those and negotiating out of those. And I just want to tell you, how many of you are using this app right now for Keller Williams? KW Realty app. So this app right here. You guys use that? When you open it, at the very bottom, it says powered by Smarter Agent. Did you guys see the announcement 2 weeks ago? Who did Keller Williams purchase? Smarter Agent. Newsflash. Do you know how many other companies are using that app? Hundreds. It's the preferred app for Berkshire Hathaway, for Realogy, which owns Coldwell Banker, Century 21. Most of real estate, the majority of real estate companies now are using that app. We own it. It has 4 patents right now that basically everybody that's developing apps for real estate are violating. And plus we get to see all their data. So guess what's happening? Who's getting smarter? We are. So he created the name, we're going to be a tech company because he wanted to attract brilliant people. He's attracted brilliant people because, as Bill Gates said, brilliant software isn't developed by dumb people. Okay? It's developed by smart people. So we've got to get after people. All right? So he's not going to roll most of this stuff out until February. And the reason, a lot of that is service agreements. A lot of the stuff's ready to go. Some of it's not. They're testing it. But a lot of people ask him about other companies out there, what they're doing. So one of the companies that came up was EXP. They said, hey, what's EXP doing? And he kind of laughed and he said, well, Josh was on stage with them in Inman, and their guy said, we don't develop software. That's not what we do. We buy it from somebody. So for a technology company not to be developing, it's a little interesting. So Gary said, I'm a ferocious competitor. You don't want to compete with me. He went out and signed a non-disclosure agreement and he's talking about buying the company that develops the avatars and the trading platform for EXP. He looked at it. It's like, I don't have anything. Compass, you may have heard about them. They're making a big splash. They've been making lots of acquisitions. They have a lot of money. So everybody calls them the technology company. They don't have any technology. They have a hope, they have a strategy, they don't have anything. You know how we know that? Their number 2 guy for technology applied for a job. Keller Williams. Josh was like, well, this is what we're doing. What are you doing? He's like, we're not even close to that. We don't have that. So I wanted to talk to you a couple things about some software. So all of you have Kelly. How many of you love Kelly and think Kelly's amazing? 3 people. Great. How many of you tried Kelly once and said that's dumb, it doesn't work? Most of you. More than once said dumb, it doesn't work. So when Alexa and Siri came out, did they do everything right?
No.
Okay. Why do you think Amazon and Apple created artificial intelligence?
To listen to you.
Exactly. So, as Josh said, if I wanted to ask you what you wanted a virtual assistant or artificial intelligence to do for you, what kind of questions you would ask, you would tell me. But if I give you a blank canvas, just an open app, and said, talk, we listened. So now we know the questions that you're asking. Kelly's going to be a gateway, a platform into everything. So from your phone, you'll be able to get onto KW Command, which is going to be your CRM platform. You'll be able to get into KW Connect, okay? So Kelly, a lot of you guys have been frustrated and like, this is a joke. This doesn't do anything. It won't look anything like what you have. Does that make sense? So there's basically 3 buckets. So he said the first thing they had to do was build a platform, okay? And it has to be connected. That's the hard thing. You have to have all these little platforms connected. And then you have to have second-level artificial intelligence. So why did you see we just purchased an AI company here a couple weeks ago? And now there's 3 buckets. There's the customer, there's the agent, and there's the market center. Okay? So some of you have seen some of the agent stuff, right? You've seen KW Command. You may have seen it. Some of you are maybe playing with it, trying pieces of it. KW Command is not fully rolled out yet. Not even close. Market Center, how many of you love green sheets? Nobody raise their hand there. Good news for you, green sheets are going away. Okay, green sheets are going away. Everything we do is going to the cloud, called CloudNorth. And now, what we haven't seen, and I don't know that they may show it on Friday. Gary may show some of this consumer stuff, but they ask us not to share a lot with you. But here's what I feel like I can share without breaking confidentiality or giving you guys too much information. Here's what I can say confidently. No one out there has created an experience. When you get on Zillow or you get on Realtor.com, that's what your customers are going to, right? What is it? What is it really? It's just the MLS, right? There's not any fancy search options. It's not customized. There's no consumer experience. What they're creating is something that no one else out there has. And they've been working with customers to get voice of customer feedback. Not agents, customers on what they want. And they built it from an app first. Why? Because most people use apps. So here's the good news. When we own the app company, guess what happens when we update your app? And everybody that you've given it to has it. It's instant. When we push an update and they hit update, they're going to get it. Now, no one's had this before. Boom, 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 boom. Nobody's had all this connected. But here's what we have to have. We have to have your data. We have to have your data. The data will make us smarter. So when we all share it together, we get smarter together. Who has the most agents out there? No. We do as an individual.
NRT.
But if you take Synergy, West Caldwell Banker, Century 21, Susie, I don't know, they have a whole bunch of brands they purchase. But they're all independent. And they don't talk to each other. Like they don't even act like they know each other. They don't have technology, they don't have software that's not connected. So are they doing this? No. So that actually makes us the biggest. But that is connected. So when we start connecting and sharing our data, guess what we get? When we can measure consumer trends, let me use a medical example for artificial intelligence with platforms vertically integrated. Here's a great example. You're bitten by a recluse spider, or you think it is. You got a red mark on your arm. You take a picture of it. This is what all this vertical integration with a doctor and it can do for you. Hey, I've noticed it looks like that. There's a 98% chance that's a spider bite. You need to circle that. Watch if it expands. You need to get on medicine right now. Looks like you have an opening on your calendar for today at 3:30 that coordinates with the doctor. I went ahead and booked that appointment for you. And your medicine will be delivered to this pharmacy. That's what artificial intelligence on a vertically integrated platform does. So imagine real estate. What if now you have customers on your app and they're doing some stuff in your app? And Keller Williams says, hey, this person looks like they're going to purchase in the next 30 days based on the search engines and the criteria and the activities that they're doing. Because we've got all this data that's been measured before as we watch people go through the pipeline. So what's going to happen is this thing's going to get smarter and smarter. A couple more things. So the consumer side, from a listing standpoint, what would it be like if, from a listing standpoint, I could get you to sit down and have once you have your call with your customer, send them a link, and then they could answer questions showing pictures and basically kind of get them to price their home. Right? The needs analysis is done automatically. I mean, there's just so many things, guys, that they're bringing to the market to work for you. It's mind-blowing. So here's the big issue. So how do you win? How do we win in this market? The first thing you've got to do is you've got to get your database right. How many of you have got your database nailed? Everybody's hand went up. Awesome. Here's what's going to happen. And this is what Gary said. Gary said, in the future, there's a good chance margins will be suppressed. You may not make 6%. And in the future, that may mean there's less agents. But if you think you're going to make less money, you're wrong. Because what we hope to do is enable you with enough technology to help your business do more transactions, 3 to 4 times the transactions. So even if the margin's half, if you're doing the right things and you have a database, your business can be more profitable. Does that make sense? So here's what's going to, what's that?
It's the Walmart effect.
Yeah, so here's what's going to happen. You've got to get your database. You have until February to get your database because everything we do is speed. So as Josh Team said, the number one factor I can tell you is speed is everything in this industry. We're going to give you competitive advantage. You got 90 days. Because that's how fast people can copy things in this industry. So if we roll out the brand new consumer experience, your agent connectedness with the market center, with this amazing app and this online experience, how long before people can see that and start copying it? Instantly. And they will, right? Everything we have to do is speed. If we're slow to adapt, we will fail. So the question I have for you is, what are you going to do in the next 6 months to build your database and get it done right? Okay? Because that is what is really going to come down to. Does that make sense? Getting your database nailed down is going to give you, because if people, when I'm telling you, when they see your app, and when I can't get into the details of it, but when you see it, they're going to want to, it will be the real estate resource for your customers. It will be. It's going to be amazing. So, I've got all kinds of notes here, but I want to open up for questions, because I'm sure you guys have questions for me.
I have one.
Yeah.
So, the way it is now, when somebody does a search on Google, wherever, Zillow comes up inevitably, no matter how you put it
Yeah.
in. It amazes me how much detail
Yeah.
you put in, and Zillow still comes up.
Yeah.
How are we ever going to combat that?
I don't know that you ever will in the short term. I think how you're going to combat that on an individual basis is when you connect with people.
Yeah, I get that part. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
And here's the
it's
problem. So
pathetic.
we talked about how do we, maybe we do a national campaign and we pay to promote KellerWilliams.com, right? Here's the challenge with that. Does that have an agent connected to it? You're driving the Keller Williams. So we became the #1 real estate company without any media, right? And so our goal is if we give you the tools, you've got to take a ground force campaign in the trenches to get it there. Does that make sense?
So it's not going to happen.
Not in the short term. It's only going to happen through individual usage.
Yeah, but
I mean, the
an
reason
individual
people go
could
there,
never get that high up on the Google.
they won't. They won't as an individual, but KellerWilliams.com could if people go there and that's tied to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But they're going there for a reason. That's what you have to remember. They're going there for a reason. They're going there because of an experience that's better than anybody else. So if we create a better experience, that's how you beat it. Yes?
Well, this probably doesn't apply to most of the group. However, it's very important to me because right now my Keller Williams website only pulls MLS for Springfield area.
Yeah.
So my wife is on Zillow and she's going, oh, look at this, look at that. And I said, well, why don't you be looking at that on my page? You
Yeah.
know, so I can start getting that data going. And she goes, well, it don't pull it. And so I'm confined right now. I've got a guy that tells me he's wanting to sell his house, he's wanting to move a certain place. I'm a licensee from Missouri, but I don't have that information where he's wanting to move to. So I
I know there's some
You can have it if you pay for it.
there's some IDX fees or some
Yeah,
connections.
I can help you with that, Scott. We can talk afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll show you how you can find that data.
But will it show up on my page, on my actual
Yeah.
website?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Good question. Keep going, gang. What do you got for me?
Well, but I think when I think of all this tech is people go to Zillow because they view it as independent of brokerages.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if people go to the Keller Williams website, there's going to be a certain percentage of people that think, well, I'm only going to see Keller Williams listings here. I'm not going to see everything available. Are they working on separate branding that would sort of make it look like it's more independent and hey, you can get everything here as opposed to just looking at Keller Williams stuff?
Let me clarify. You mean the homes, or are you talking about the agents?
No, I'm talking
Consumer platform.
buyers. Buyers going to Zillow because they think, well, I can see all of the houses at Zillow, whereas if I go to this Keller Williams website, I'm only gonna see the Keller Williams listings.
Why would you only see Keller Williams listed?
That's a people thing.
That's a
That's
perception.
Perception.
So it's us educating them better. I have a lot of people that will use Marty still because their app is very good. Their website's really good.
Well, their
So
app
I
is
still
not
have-
agent specific.
Right, but they'll go to Marty because they still know they can look at everything on there and their sites are easier to use. They think.
When people are coming through my open house and I'm showing them the app, I said, it doesn't matter who has the listing. whether it's us, whether, you know, if it's on the internet, it will pull it.
Question?
Well, I mean, back to my question is, are they working on bringing our stuff in such a way that it looks like it's more independent? And so that it's more like a Zillow as opposed to a brokerage-specific listing? Or is
I'm
that
not-
not an obstacle?
I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm still confused how people.
I think you almost have to go directly after Zillow in
Yeah.
some type of ads. Something
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is a website that competes with Zillow. It's not, you know,
Yeah, the one thing I do know is that, again, people go to Zillow because it's the best website out there, and it has some other recommendations. And so what we're trying to do is create a website that has, in a platform, that has way more. You know, I'm talking school district, it's gonna have stuff on schools, it's gonna have stuff on neighborhoods, that's why we partnered with Nextdoor. Again, I'm trying to scratch the surface of everything this thing's gonna have, but it's just gonna be more. So if you can imagine getting on a website and going, hey, these are the things I really like. Not just 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in this part of town. That's what everybody else has now. What if you said, well, I like white bathroom with open floor plan, and I like these certain things, and it starts to recognize that. You know, and what if it told you more about, hey, you know, the Zestimate's a big deal. That's why a lot of people go there. We're actually working on a platform that's better than that. So, yeah. Go.
Even though if somebody would look at our platform for white bathroom and all that, we're giving them that information, and Zillow has access to exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Because we're feeding them, we're making them big, and now
Yes.
it's biting us back.
Yeah, the MLS giving them access didn't help us any, right? But if it's customized for the customer, and we're giving them data they can't get anywhere else, and then the third thing is that I didn't talk about at all is the further integration, right? So if they can come here and they can get everything packaged into one deal, hey, I can do it all. And the other thing that Zillow doesn't have is once the process starts and they hand you over to an agent, they're done. What we can do, and we can provide online, this is what's going to be pretty cool, is think about if once I have a customer and I have a home, what do you spend a lot of your time doing as agents? Communicating, right? Communicating the process. And some customers go, I want to know more. You're not telling me enough. I don't feel like I know what's going on. They're calling you at 7 o'clock at night, and that ticks you off, right? And some of them, you're calling them and they're going, okay, cool, I didn't even know that. Do you today, when you order a pizza, how do you order a pizza? You don't call?
Yeah.
You still call? Okay. Domino's does. So if you call Domino's, you get on the app, right? So what if during the whole home buying experience, it's all connected and they can see exactly where they're at in the process to your platform where you're at on command, and it's all integrated? How would that make your customer feel? More empowered? More professional? Better in control? So that's kind of where the whole thing's going, along with, you know, Keller Mortgage, and that's a whole other conversation, but there's so many of those different things happening for that very reason. Keep the questions coming. These are good questions.
Quick question
Yeah.
on integration. Because right now, you know, if I give a client my KW app,
Yep.
there's also GSBOR's app.
Yeah.
So
Are you giving them eGSBO's app, or they just get it on their own?
sometimes both, or sometimes I'll just use GSBOR. It just kind of depends on their tech savviness.
Okay.
But you know, there's 2 apps that do different things. So
Why would we use GSBOR? I'm asking a question here. What does it do that ours does?
Well, so it'll link directly, it links into Flex when they favorite their homes. So that when you go to write an offer, the documents are all there. You don't have to transfer the data over, which you have to do if you're using our KW Realty app. So not all the information is in there for the
Gotcha.
agent.
But if it is,
So my question is will that customer-based app fee, will we just be using that? Essentially?
Yes. It'll have the feed, it'll also have all your contract stuff from my understanding. So they can do that interaction in there.
Okay.
So I'm gonna end on this and just tell you, first of all, it's a critical time in our industry to fight for our industry. And Gary said these words, it's never been more important to be with never been a time more important that who you're in business with matters. And some people said, well, what if we have agents that don't wanna give us the data or don't wanna participate? It's like, then they don't need to be a part of Keller Williams. Because we win together because of our size. We win together because we're sharing data. And that's how we win. The more data we have, the bigger we are. We have the physical presence. If we have the digital tools, game, set, match. Zillow, what's Zillow doing right now? They bought a brokerage in Arizona. Realtor.com just bought one in Texas. Okay? What are they trying to do?
Transact.
They're trying to figure out how they can pay you just to go out and open doors. So guess what? These are interesting times. And I'm very excited for what Keller Williams has. I've never been more like, holy cow. We've got some really, really, really cool stuff coming. So 2 things I want you to leave here with. First of all, be excited, but understand that's not where we're at now. Right now, what can we do? Get our database in order, right? And continue to gain market share. And when you're out there visiting with people and they're like, if you just ask people, what do they think about technology? Where do they think technology is going to play a role in the real estate business? Because they stick their head in the sand and say nothing's coming. It's not realistic, is it? It's not true. You can deny it. Yep.
I think something we really have to focus on strongly is coming together collectively and stop buying leads from those companies and stop supporting Realtor.com and stop supporting Zillow. I love nothing more than when they call me, which I had a call from Realtor.com yesterday to buy leads and asking about other products to add on. I'm like, no, Keller Williams is coming out with KW Command, all that. I have Top Producer, which is Realtor.com. Yep. And I said, as soon as that happens, I'm switching everything over and getting rid of you guys. That's what I told him. He's like, well, okay, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And we don't have to get on board with that.
And Gary basically said, we understand they're our adversary, but we also want to continue to watch them and learn from them, because you never know, what the future's going to hold. But he said, I wouldn't be giving them any money, but also, somebody said, let's turn our feet off to them. That doesn't make sense either, right? Because the rest of the MLS is a part of it. So these are very interesting dynamic that we're going to navigate. But I can just tell you what, I left that thing feeling like it was Christmas Day, right? And I just got the biggest present ever because of all that I saw that is coming and the way it's going to work. Guys, I was with Caterpillar in 2004 whenever they spent $1 billion to try to integrate 5 different pieces of software. They called it the spine. They spent 5 years, billions, it didn't work. It's a complete flop. So Gary Keller's is, somebody said, is he the real deal? He is the real deal. The guy's very, very intelligent, and he's been making strategic moves before anybody else is. So feel very, very, very good about that. We've got a lot of validation when everybody now is going out and buying technology companies after we've made our declaration. Trouble is they're about 2 years behind us. So take this with you as you go and use it to your advantage, but get your databases in order in the next 6 months. If you need help, ask us, and then buckle up for February, because we're going to talk about between now and then, how do you what's your strategy to get your app, your branded app, and your consumers connected to you. Does that make sense? Okay, guys. We've got a quick presentation for Family Safe and then lunch. Amber?
Okay, again, my name's Amber Schnoggen with Family Safe Storm Shelters. We are based out of Republic, our offices. We service all of the state of Missouri. Family Safe was the very first above-ground storm shelter safe room company to ever be tested and approved at Texas Tech. So we're not the run-of-the-mill, somebody in their garage has an idea, oh, I'm gonna build a storm shelter and start a company, and they close a couple years later, and then guess what? What's that person gonna do if they need to move their shelter, or they need to buy another one, or something goes wrong with it? They're not there to help them. We have had 13 documented shelters that have gone through either F4 or F5 tornadoes. I have a couple of pictures for you here in a minute. Several that have gone through smaller. I've personally seen a couple of them, one that went through an F1 and one that went through an F4. It's amazing. We have never had anybody trapped inside a shelter, and we have yet to have a shelter fail in 20 years. We meet or exceed all the FEMA and the ICC 500 criteria. I know that's a big question for people, because there are some companies out there that have not been tested and approved, and they don't meet the criteria. Our shelter has a guarantee that no other company has, so if we sell a shelter to a customer, I keep a database of everybody that we sell to. If that area is ever hit by a storm, I will go back through my database, call everybody that's within usually about a 30-mile radius, and make sure they're okay. And then if there's ever a shelter that has gone through a tornado, once we can get into the area, we will go pick up that shelter. We take it back to our manufacturing shop, which is where our main office is in Owasso, Oklahoma. And the guys will check it, make sure it's still structurally sound. At that time, they are given an option. And I've had both scenarios happen. They can either get a brand new shelter when they're ready for it, free of charge, or we will strip that one down, re-hardware it, repaint it, make it look brand new, and reinstall it once they're ready. We have had people do both. This one's already withstood an F5 tornado. We want it. We've had the other end of the spectrum where, no, that one's already gone through a storm, we want a brand new one. We cover both aspects. So that is a guarantee that no other shelter company has. They won't guarantee their shelters like that, like we will. There are several differences within our shelters and the competitors in the area. I mean, there are several companies that do sell storm shelters in this area. We have a 2-inch by 2-inch square tubing throughout our shelters on 2-foot centers. Most of them have gone to using a channel iron. It's half the strength resistance as ours. We have a double-plated steel door on ours. Most of them have a single-plated. And we have 3 grade 1 construction deadbolts on the outside of our door, so that people can not only use it as a storm shelter, it's used as a safe room from intruders, which is becoming bigger and bigger in this area with the crime increase. They can also use it as a gun safe. You go on vacation and want to store your valuables in there, they can use it on that aspect as well. So ours serves multi-purpose, whereas a lot of our competitors in the area, the bigger ones, are now selling gun safes as well. So they've taken the locking mechanisms off their shelters, so they strictly are a storm shelter, and they cannot use them for both. They want people to buy 2 different units. Ours serves as one. You get what you pay for with competitors. That's something, if somebody is looking for a quality shelter, probably 95% of the time they will come to us. If they're looking for price, they'll go to the competitor. With our shelters, they can be installed, and this is where it comes into play for you guys. Existing homes, new home construction, we can put them outside on a slab. They necessarily do not increase the value of the home, but what we have found in instances, and I had one out at Highland Springs that is a perfect example. There were 2 houses at Highland Springs for sale that this lady was looking at. One had a storm shelter and one did not. The lady said to the current owner, if you will leave that storm shelter, I will purchase that house. And it helped it sell. We've seen that in several instances. If there's certain houses that are similar in size and price in the area and they have a storm shelter, that one typically will sell first. If you guys get to homes and they don't have those, call me and let me help you. We try to keep shelters in stock at all times. I've got about 10 sitting at the shop right now. That's pretty low for us. But typically from the middle of February to the end of June, I have anywhere from 40 to 60 shelters sitting there ready to go. So if somebody calls, I had a contractor call me 2 Thursdays ago in a panic, had a closing on a house, and the walkthrough was the next Tuesday, needed a shelter installed, and this is Tuesday afternoon, or Thursday afternoon, and he needed it in before Tuesday morning. We happened to have what he needed, we put it in Monday morning. So we try to keep them in stock so that we can get them in pretty quick. This is one of the shelters that went through the F4 tornado in 2014 in Belonia, Arkansas. There were 7 people inside the shelter when the tornado hit. The guy called and said, I really never wanted to buy a shelter. I did it for my wife. And he said, I'll never have a house without one now. As you can see, the little handle, the screw off the handle broke. There's nothing else wrong with that shelter. There it is as the house is cleaned up when we went to pick it up and uninstall it. Took them almost a year to rebuild. That was in April 2014. In May of 2015, the guy calls, again in a panic. We just finished our house, just got everything done. There's tornadoes supposed to be here in 3 days. Can you bring our shelter back? We rearranged our schedule and took it down there. Okay, this is one that was in Moore, Oklahoma in 2013 tornado. That one, they said they would rate an F6. Had there been an F6 rating, that tornado was so strong. There is debris inside that shelter. The couple here was in Texas buying a new house whenever the storm hit. So the door was unlocked. The wind threw the door open, but even with that F5 wind getting inside, still did not suck it up off the concrete. That one is now sitting in their new house in Texas. This was the same storm. This one actually had 5 people inside of it. It was in a large subdivision about the middle of where the tornado came through more. And when this couple walked outside, it was the only thing standing as far as they could see. They actually chose a new shelter. This is just a temporary, garage install that we've done. We can tuck them in corners. People think, oh my gosh, I don't have room. Let us come out and do a site visit, and we can help them decide the best place to put them and the best size for the space and for their family size. That one is a 4x4. This is a new construction that they've added on, and there are certain specifications that they have to meet. This door placement's actually a little odd, but that's where they needed it because of the door coming out of the house into there. We do custom. We do custom sizes. And we can make them 8 foot tall. So we have, here in town, have turned them into laundry rooms. One that's a master bedroom closet. We've done them food pantry, customs. Questions? I do have brochures with me that have my business card stapled to the inside front cover. I believe there's also some downstairs still. So if anybody has questions, you can pick one of these up and call me at a later date. I do keep them in stock, again, out in Republic. So if you want to send somebody out there to me, just have them call me before they come. I, right now, the only one at the office. So, if I ever have to leave and run an errand or come to a meeting, then my office is closed. So just tell them to call before they head out. I don't want them to make a wasted trip, but thank you guys.
Thank you, Amber. Out here, so, lunch is out here in the little office space, and we'll bring water out there for you. There's water back there.
I don't think I can. I gotta take the youngest two boys to doctor.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I'm gonna go get my nails done and then I'll come back.
I'm pretty sure half or more than half of these clients were
Right.